This is the Gillette Labs with exfoliating bar. The bar and the handle removes unseen dirt and debris ahead of the blades for effortless shaving in one efficient stroke.
Down stop. I was curious, when you watched the play over, what did you see there that contributed to stopping him short of the sticks?
You're talking about those 4th and 1 inside dive play, was that it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, good team defense, good penetration, strong tackle, drove the runner back. A lot of times on those plays, it's close. I mean, they didn't need very much anyway, and then it's kind of what happens after the runner gets to the line of scrimmage. Does the pile push forward? Does the runner fall forward? Or is the defense able to stand them up and move them back? And those guys up front, did a good job. We closed in from the outside and kind of stopped his momentum, and then were able to kind of push him back there. So good team defensive play.
And the same question on Jack's interception. Tavai's carrying.
Yeah, it was it's a tough play. It's well designed what they were doing, and Kennedy was going down the seam, and he was about, I don't know, maybe 10 yards ahead of Hawkinson, and Hawkinson was going down the seam or going down the sideline. So it was what we call a double seam play, where it's two guys going vertical, but they were at different levels, and that's always hard on the defense. It's hard on the corner because if they're on the same level, he can midpoint both guys. When they're on different levels like that, it's hard to do that. And Jelani made a really good play when the ball was in the air to close as much as he did, but Jack just came off of Kennedy. As the ball was being thrown, saw the throw, came off of Kennedy, and then obviously made a tremendous play with the interception, and then being able to get his feet down in bounds. So, actually, both guys played it. Both Jelani and Jack played it very well. But it's a good play. It's a tough play, and of course Hawkinson's a tough guy to defend with those high throws like that was, and he would have, I'm sure, gone up and gotten it for a touchdown if Jack hadn't been able to get his hands on the ball. So really heads up play or just a good play by Jelani and by Jack, of recognizing it, and then Jack's transition and ball skills, timing, jump, catch were was an outstanding catch, and get his feet down in bounds. I mean, he looked like a receiver doing that.
Next question, Kevin Stone, followed by Chris Ryan.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
All right, good, Coach.
You've often said that one of the best abilities is availability, and yesterday you coached your 400th game here in New England. I'm just curious, I know you're probably focused on Cleveland, but is that, maintaining that longevity in one place, is that something that, you take pride in?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. It's been, it's going all the way back. It's a great opportunity to be here in 96, and then, Robert gave up a lot, and it was, hard to hire me in 2000, and gave up a lot in the trade with the Jets and all that. For me to come here, and so that, that in itself was a great level of commitment, and a blessing for me to have this opportunity. And then, it's worked out pretty well since then, all the way around. And so hopefully we can continue to, improve and keep it going. I didn't realize that. Thanks for for giving me that number. I didn't realize it had been 400, but it doesn't seem like that. But it's been just awesome to see so many players and coaches come through here, come in as rookies, grow, develop into great players, have great careers. We've had a couple of the Hall of Fame inductions the last couple of years with Seymour and Wilfork and guys like that. And of course there were the other ones like Troy and Kevin Falk and those players that were already here when I got here, Ty, guys like that. And but Mayo, just all those guys that came in and were here, and then many of them now, Slater, McCourty, people like that to just watch them come in as rookies and just start from scratch and then develop and grow into some of the greatest players of in Patriots history, some of the greatest players of all time. Certainly Brady and Slater will go down in that category at their positions and for the game. So it's been an incredible number of years, and same thing with the coaches. All the coaches that have come in here and have gone from quality control assistants to all the way up the ladder to coordinators and head coaches and other places in the league. It's I think back on that every once in a while and just kind of say, wow, I've been so fortunate to be able to work with so many great people, great coaches, great players, great people in the organization, the personnel department, Scott, Nick, and all. I could go on here for days, but thanks for bringing it up. It's good to kind of reflect on it, and you're right. It's probably time for me to start thinking about Cleveland.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next question, Chris Ryan, followed by Zach Cox.
Morning, Bill. How are you?
Hey, Chris.
I want to ask you about a couple key playmakers on defense and the role that having those type of playmakers has. You've talked a lot about guys that are structured and play significant parts within it, but having guys like Judon and Duggar, is that integral to having a successful defense? Guys that consistently can make plays.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, they're both outstanding players in their respective positions, and whoever the playmakers are, your top players in whatever part of it is, offense, defense, or special teams. Of course, you need those players and count on those players to come through with impact plays and but all that being said, especially on defense, you can't really control that. You can't control what play the offense is going to run or whether those players are going to have an opportunity. I mean, ultimately they will at some point during the game, but certainly from play to play, you don't know that. Or in some of the critical fourth down situations, things like that, you don't know which player it's going to be that's called on. And so ultimately it comes down to team defense. And when those opportunities come, then you just obviously hope that whoever the player is able to make the right play and make the play that gets you off the field or turns the ball over or creates a long yardage situation or whatever it is. So, the Jews, of course, on the end of the line of scrimmage. We know that, and Wise has done a really good job for us this year. He's been extremely productive, and so when you have one, having another one helps that player. So I learned that at the Giants. Having Carl Banks help Lawrence Taylor more than anything. Lawrence Taylor was a great player before Banks, and with or without Banks, he was a great player. Tremendous, greatest defensive player. But with Banks, he became even more of a force because Banks on the other side, Wise on the other side. So a little bit the same thing at safety. When you have good safeties, multiple good safeties in our case, it's hard to get away from. You get away from Duggar, you're going to McCourty. Get away from McCourty, you're going to Phillips. Get away from Duggar, you're going to. So when you have that kind of balance at those positions, it definitely helps those players because it's much harder for the offense to try to scheme or game plan getting away from one guy when there's another player that's being productive on the other side of it. So again, as good as both those guys are and as productive as they've been, and as much as I love both of them and they're very important to our team, having the balance at the other positions, as I mentioned, is does a lot for any good player, honestly. But in the case of the two that you brought up, the other complementary pieces there, just I point out, I think they're important too.
So three final questions: Zach Cox, Dakota Randall, and Bob Sutton.
Morning, Bill.
Hey, Zach.
Just curious what you saw from Taquan in practice and behind the scenes that made you confident he was ready to come off IR this past week, and just how you think he handled his workload in his first game back.
Yeah, well, Taquan's rehab was, of course, all under the supervision of medical people. And when he was cleared to practice, and he was eligible to practice, which was this week, then he started doing that. So we only had a couple practices this week, as you know. Wednesday was a pretty light day, so I think each practice every day will. And of course, he had a lot in preseason, but each practice every day will help him, and it's good to have him back out there. He's got a long way to go. There's a lot of things that he learned from yesterday that will be better next week in practice, and hopefully be better next week in the game. He's a hard-working kid. He's smart. He's got good versatility in the skills that he can do and has. But a long way to go. Just try to keep stacking days together here. It's not. I wouldn't expect anything to just happen overnight, but. Good progress. Again, good guy to have as a receiver for our passing game. Glad we have him.
And two final questions: Dakota Randall and Bob Sutton.
Bill, just wondering if you have any update on Ty Montgomery, whether you expect him to return to practice this week.
I do not expect him to return to practice this week.
Thank you. And then just one additional question. Jelani has had a big role for you this year. Just wondering, just generally, what do you think of the way he's played so far?
Yeah, Jelani is one of our most versatile players. Plays in all phases of the kicking game, and then plays, as you know, and have seen, on the ball and off the ball, and also has played in a lot of the third down passing situation groups, as you saw in preseason, less during the regular season, but certainly he's capable of that. And so he's a player that's really played well in all those roles, but he has a multitude of things that we've asked him to do defensively. It's given our defense some flexibility and versatility, and that's valuable for the different offenses that you have to match up against. So, for example, yesterday with the Lions, they again, best running team in the league. They ran some 13 personnel. They ran some 13 jumbo. Nelson wasn't active yesterday. They used Skipper in that role, but so you go anywhere from 13 jumbo to 11 personnel, to a lot of 12 personnel and 12 with Hawkinson or without Hawkinson. So you create a lot of different. Detroit was an example of a team that created a lot of different groups and a lot of different types of defensive calls that we needed to defend them, which hasn't been uncommon this year, and it's the way it's going to be a big part of the year all season. So. Jelani's a player that really gives you some versatility to match up to guys like that. And one of the plays that Detroit ran was when they had 11 personnel on the field, and he quickly subbed to 13 and ran that out there to get our smaller players on the field, if you will, and then bring the big guys in and run the ball. And we handled that play pretty well, for a short game with our passing game people on the field against their running set. But I think that kind of speaks to the level of comfort that we have and the flexibility we have defensively to play interchangeably through those type of situations. And we have a number of players like that, but Jelani's certainly one of them. Smart kid's done a good job for us. Again, to be able to handle all those roles, that comes with a player who's not only smart but also instinctive and can, be put in different positions from play to play, from down to down, and still react and function, at a high level at multiple spots without us having to substitute multiple players on every play and then tell the offense what grouping we have in and what we're going to be. So he's been great.
Great, thank you.
Last question, Bob Sosi.
Good morning, Bill.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bill,
Celebrating a Navy win?
A big Navy win. Looks like the Navy offense of old.
Yeah, I'll say. Did they hit 50?
They did.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, they're rolling.
Yeah, they did. I wish they could have banked a few of those points or used
Yeah, a couple other games. Yeah, right, yeah. I saw Joe. Joe was, in really good spirits as usual after that. So, it gave me the heads up that things went well. So good.
Good start to the weekend.
Right.
Yesterday, in your post game remarks, you mentioned the coaches and the change in practice schedule, and you just referenced as well Wednesday being a pretty light day. And both Devin and Matthew addressed it as well a little bit in their post game remarks, and they both said that they felt they were really locked in mentally this past week in the walkthroughs and in their preparation, even in their conversations post practice about the Lions and their roles. And I'm curious, like when you manage a season, the feel you have to have and the balance between try to prepare the team physically, take care of them physically, but also hone in, on the mental aspects of the game, and just what correlation you saw this week between one and the other.
Right. Well, that's a great question, Bob, and I don't think there's any perfect answer to it. It's a judgment that I have to make as the head coach, and whether they're right or wrong, who'll know, because we don't do the other one. But I think as over the course of the season, as a head coach, you kind of get a feel for your team, and it may not be the entire team. It may be what most of the team needs, and so you have to sacrifice some of the other part of it for practice schedules or meeting schedules or time commitment, whatever, however you want to look at it, time management. We have so much time, we want to try to use it as productively as possible. And so those decisions on how to practice, or how long to practice, or how long to meet, or how long to allocate certain time frames to different things are based on where our team is, who the opponent is, and sometimes what I feel, or maybe, and sometimes the staff will recommend that as well to me, of like, here's what I think we need. And it may be different from week to week. A lot of times it is. So even though we have a general routine, which I think is important to be on a routine, sometimes, look, if you get knocked off the routine because the schedule changes on a Thursday night game or Monday, that's something else too. But in just a regular routine, if you change it, then I think you need to have a reason to change it. And last week, I just felt like that was the right thing to do. Talk to the talking to the players and talking to the staff as well. I think we all kind of felt like that, and players responded. They responded extremely well. I thought we tried to play hard and physically yesterday, which we need to do and continue to do. And we'll just have to, manage it from week to week. Our schedule's going to change a little bit coming up here in the coming weeks, but we're on another Sunday to Sunday week this week, so we'll talk about it here after the game and try to figure out what's best for this one. But I thought the players, and when that happens, again, as you mentioned, which is really important, when you do change the schedule, the most important thing is that the players understand why it's being changed, what they have to do to make it work, and then do it. And I thought, again, that was really the players did a great job of that this week, and our captains and our veteran players gave us a lot of leadership there in terms of the way we handled it, and that's really important. So they took the change, and I thought, as you said and referenced, utilized that time to lock in and spend extra mental preparation time in in the understanding of the Lions' offensive, defensive, special team systems, personnel, and so forth. And so when we did actually practice and then play, that was reflected in the execution. For a team that we didn't know very well, really didn't know hardly at all based on the number of new players that they've had since the last time we played them. So, I think really more than the schedule, the credit needs to go to the players for the way they handled it, the way they applied it, and got the most out of it.
Appreciate it, Bill.
You got it, Bob.
Thank you, Coach. And just a heads up for the media,